The Apple Watch Series 9 comes in two different sizes. So here we have the larger 45mm and the smaller 41mm version. And even though it's basically the same smartwatch, we do get some differences. So I got both these watches here today to show you how they look on my wrist, how they look off of my wrist, and check out the differences to help you decide which one is the best size for you. Now before we get too deep, these two watches are not only available in two different sizes, but you can get each size with either an aluminum case or a stainless steel one, and you can decide between the normal Wi-Fi and the cellular version. Right here I have the normal 41 and 45mm Wi-Fi aluminum version. The smaller one comes in at a price of 450 euros and the larger one will cost you 480 over here in Germany. Just in case you're interested, the larger stainless steel version will come in at a price of around 880 euros. By the way, I will leave all of the purchasing links down in the description below. So first let's look at each watch and how they look off of my wrist. Then we will compare and talk about the major differences, and at the end I will give you my final thoughts on which one is the best for you. So right here I have two different sizes in my hand. Now just by looking at them you really don't see any differences besides the color difference, and that one is a little bit bigger than the other one. But you still get the same two physical buttons on the right side of the watch with the same functions, and by the way they have the same size as well. Also, if you put both watches right next to each other, you see that they have the same height. In my experience, I didn't have any problems with either watch when it comes to wearing them during the night. Of course, the larger one is a little bit more noticeable, but it didn't bother me too much, and the smaller one even less. Also, during your workout, I didn't feel such a huge difference. Okay, the bigger one is a little bit heavier with 52 grams and compared to the just 42 grams of the smaller version. And you do feel the difference a little bit, but not too much. But that's just me speaking as the regular guy that doesn't run marathons or anything like that. Now let's take a quick look at the straps, and there are the first big differences. You can of course always buy new straps in different sizes anytime you want to, but by default you will get a 135 to 200mm strap on the 41mm version, and on the bigger one it is 140 to 245mm. The upper part of both bands are about the same size, but the lower, longer part of the bigger version is just so much longer. You can fit two fingers in the gap between. Just for context, I have a 19cm wrist, which is about 7.5 inches, and the smaller band is definitely too small for my wrist. I'm already on the last hole, and on the bigger strap, my wrist is almost too small. Right here, I'm on the second closest hole of the band. Just as a little side note, there are hundreds of Apple Watch bands that you can buy, but just be aware of the fake cheap ones as they get very dirty very quickly and you barely get the dirt off. On other smartwatches I normally also talk about the lug-to-lug size, but there's nothing like that for the Apple Watch. But just for reference, if I put the smaller one on my wrist, it basically disappears on the wrist and it's just way too small for my taste. The larger one fits much better to the size of my wrist, and that's what I would also suggest getting if you have the same wrist size or anything close to it. Definitely get the bigger one if your wrist is bigger than mine, but anything bigger than 17 centimeters should get the large version, and everything below should really think about getting the smaller 41mm version. Of course, that's always a preference thing, and some like larger and some like smaller smartwatches, but that's just my tip for you. Alright, before we head into the main differences, let's talk about the specs for a quick second. The 41mm Apple Watch Series 9 has a 41 by 35mm body with a 1.69-inch LTPO OLED display that lights up with 2000 nits. On the backside you will get ceramic and sapphire crystal glass, an aluminum frame, and sapphire crystal glass on the front. It comes with an always-on display mode and lasts for about 18 hours with it. The 45mm version shares almost all of that besides the larger case and display. Right here we will get a 45 by 38mm case with a 1.9-inch display. Those are basically all of the differences when it comes to the size, but now over to the display and the amount of information that you get on them. First up, let's talk about your notifications. On emails, WhatsApp messages, and all other text messages, you get way more on the 45mm version, and the same goes for your Siri voice assistant. Like if I search for LeBron James, you first get a picture of him and then some text, and even just the picture is bigger and you see more of it. If you then scroll down, you get more text on one display as well. I counted the words, and at least for this searching result, you get 10 more words per display. When it comes to the WhatsApp messages, we have the same thing. Already on the pop-up, you get more words to see, and then when you head into the messages, you basically have double the amount of words displayed on the larger 45mm version. There are 3 more lines of text right here, so this one is probably the biggest difference. Next up are the workouts. When you just open this one, you may get 2 workouts displayed on both watches, but you have once again 1 more line of text at the bottom of the display. At least within the workout, there are no differences. By the way, there are also no differences in the watch faces, the app menu, or quick panel. All that is the same, and just the text and icons are a little bit smaller. In your contacts book, you see a little bit more of your contacts, but the difference is very minimal. In your mindfulness application, you see basically the whole second workout instead of just part of it. The daily activity stats all look the same, even if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, and all of your health metrics are the same as well, just a little bit smaller. The system settings are also the same, but once you head into the separate topics like display and brightness, you again have differences, and that's especially for everything that is written. As soon as you get a little bit more text, you have a big advantage on the 45mm Apple Watch 9. It would be just too much to cover every single application of your system settings, but on most of them you get 1 extra line of text when you tap on them or see a little bit more in the text boxes. But to be honest, the difference right here is not that big, and you can kind of forget about that. And those are all of the differences that you will find in these 2 sizes. So one more time, anything larger than 17 centimeters should go with the larger 45mm Apple Watch series, and anything smaller should go with the 41mm version. The best if you try one on in the store, but if you can't, try to go with my suggestion. And guys, there we have it. Now I also covered this watch in a separate video and compared it to other smartwatches. Just click right here to get to that video. And I guess with that one being said, I will see you in the next one. Peace.